Okay, new works. This is Rex. December 26th. Finally, I have time to pitch in some of my ideas and techniques for adaptive setting. So basically, this is just like a video I would like to share to people who are maybe new to competitive racing. Disclaimer: this is the video for beginners. Those who are trying to set up their cars competitively during race day itself. Assumption is you already know what are the basics for car setups, and you already know how to build a car from mock stock to mod, depending if it's student class or Tamiya open class. The objective is to actually give you ideas on how I would suggest you would set up your car. This is not to tell you how to set up your car, but the elements in your car you could actually adjust on the fly during the race itself, at the race course itself. So obviously, if you have your own car, you have your particular design, whatever chassis, you already know your configuration. What you would want to have is a setup which allows you to adapt or change settings on the race course or the race day itself. What you don't want is to have a car which you can't adjust. So meaning that, like, you want to be able to adjust your brake height, front and back. You want to be able to actually change the width, thickness, and type of brake pad you have. You want a car that you'll be able to adjust also the roller height in the front and the rear. And some tips in how to fine-tune your car, especially for the damping system. There's so many elements. So as I pointed out, you really don't want to have a car which is stuck. A car that when you go to the race venue, you won't be able to tweak it, or you're just stuck with it. You want to have a car which you can adjust or adapt based on the performance of your car on the racetrack itself. Just for this presentation, I'm going to use the S2 and probably the MA just to point out some key elements, and probably I'll also put in one of the S2 so that you would know what the typical configurations would be in adjustment. Okay, let's start from the beginning. So as I pointed out, say you already know your car, you already know what the setup is. Let's start with the brake. So if your track has a lot of slopes, especially those with a lot of straights and a slope and a turn, you would want to have quick brakes, right? So one way to ensure you have a quick braking is to have obviously a brake on the front and brake in the back. What really slows down your car right away is having brake in the front. So in the brake in the front, what you would want to have is enough brake height so that you'll bite on the front. So this is for slopes. Now the only weakness of that is if your track has also have a lot of banks, you would also slow down at the banks. So one way to go around that one is try to figure out if this side is hitting the slope on the bank. And normally the banks are, the slope is only about this long, and the slope is about a bit longer. Depends on what type of slope you're hitting. So what you have to have to weigh out. Okay, is it really important for you to slow down on the slope or the jump? Can you sacrifice that one and risk slowing down the bank? So if you're slowing down too much on the bank, what you can do is put a tape on this. So you could put partial tape on your front brake, full or partial, depends on what the amount of bite you want to get. what makes a bigger change on the braking is the height, as I pointed out. So you could actually put washers underneath here, or just the one of the spacers, just to adjust the height. The lower, more bite. Now this particular front bottom plate has an angle on it, which actually bites it better. Some setups have a flat underguard like this, which doesn't bite that much. So by design, you're actually better off having a underguard which is designed to have at least about, I think this is like 7 degrees angle slope. So when it hits the track, it hits the slope, it's actually on the angle of the track. Has more bite. Okay. So how do you do that? Basically, this a 2-ply FRP. The first FRP here is cut in an angle for the pocket, right? So that's the front underplate. Now on the rear, normally it's the easiest one to set up. To just put as way back as you could, so that the reason why way back is the longer the tail you are, the lower the jump or the hop of the car would be. So that's the reason why people drop this one really low and to the back, or especially for the whale tail, where it doesn't jump that high, it just goes like this. It can jump, it goes like this. Okay, so typically my suggestion is keep at 1.5 and then just play around with the height. You could put washers, spacers over here to adjust your height. Okay. Normally I put in black brakes, because for me it's, well, I normally just use black and gray. I haven't tried the other colors, but it works for me. It works for the tracks here in SoCal. So if I want more grip, I use the gray one, and I just adjust with the width. I could make it long or narrow, but ideally you want to have the full length, so you have more consistent grip. So every time I race, and what I normally do, I set up the car at the most powerful motor I could think of for that track. And then what I normally do is, if it flies off, that's when I start adjusting my brake. If my brake can't handle the car to be stable within the track, I start to back off. I start to either add or reduce weight. So what do? I don't normally remove my dampers, because my dampers are pretty much set. I could remove it, but normally I set it in a way so that it has a more predictable pitch. Pitch is when your car jumps off and it either lands nose up, straight, or nose down, depending on what type of track you are with, or you're dealing with. You really want to understand, okay, do you want to land this way, that way, that way? The safest one is to land straight, like this. But there are some instances, for example, if you're jumping and then there's a quick turn, you want to land a little bit nose down, especially for cars which are rear motor. You normally land like this or like that. So for front motor cars, which is why I guess most people use FM cars, is because it normally pitches down, which is good, because when you jump and then it's a turn, it bites off the wall right away. But for cars which are rear motor, it tends to be like this. Now for MA, it's a bit more balanced, so you can actually adjust the pitch a little bit better with that. Anyway, go back to this. What you could also do is, like, if you're a little bit more creative, you can actually use different types of batteries. There's the Fujitsu 950. I think it's 950. Now, keep in mind, guys, I'm basing this on the tracks here in SoCal. I know the tracks in the Philippines or other race venues could be different from where we are. So just, take whatever information you could say is useful for you and just try it out. What I'm suggesting here, just suggestions. it might work for you guys. It definitely worked for us here. So this is the light battery. Let's see, what's the weight of this one? It's really good, Fujitsu's. Let me put about 2, so you could divide by 2. 36, so what, 35, so that's about what? 17.5 each. This one's the black one. About 30. 60 versus 37. Wow. And the loops, 1950, 54. That's a Chinese version. Let's see the Japanese version. $52. Wow, that's weird. 52 for the Japanese and loops versus the Chinese. 54, huh? Apparently the Chinese made in China and the loop 1900 is heavier than the Japanese. Okay, anyway, so why did I show you about battery weight? Because that's one way for you to actually also adjust your pitch. So and I normally do that if I wanna, adjust my weight. And also think about also if you're running in a short track, normally with the 1900, it's enough for you to actually last the track. And here in SoCal, we actually could switch batteries at each heat. Some races might not allow you to change batteries, so if this doesn't apply to you though, so just be cautious about that one. Okay, another thing. I've seen I had like I saw some folks who are new to the hobby asking about how to set up the car and whatnot. These are my suggestions. Always keep your car as low to the ground as possible, and put all the weights as low to the ground as possible. Meaning that if this is your car, you want to put your weights as low as to the ground as possible. And as you notice, if this is your car, I try to keep this back roller as low as possible, because the reason why I say that, if this roller is too high, it will catch the wall. It will be more prone to catching the wall, okay, when you tilt. So if this is too high, without if you don't have a side guard, some folks will put a side guard, it will catch more, right? So what you want to do, again, let's point it out, is to keep everything as low as possible. If you put your weight low, you don't have to bring this one up. Some people bring it up because they want to compensate for the tilt at fast turns, right? So one way to make this one lower, put all the weight down, like up right here, right there. And you can do this as low as 1 millimeter. So this one I think put it 1.5. Barely legal. Right there. Okay. Also, for the front, you don't have to go all the way up. The reason why I'm saying this, because if you bring it up, then this will bite more than your roller itself, and you really want the roller to catch the wall first, not your stabilizer. In this case, my stabilizer is right there, okay? And then also when it hits the wall, it's normally on an angle. So this top side hits first if it's too close, okay? And also my suggestion is you really want to keep these two as close as you could get. Actually, I could even lower this one down. This S2 has a very low center of gravity. I could lower this one down, so just by removing one of those washers. Now, and then you could chop this one off if you have to. Okay. Now, another thing you could also do is for the just to make sure that you could adapt to different type of jumps. You could also adjust the tension of your damper. You could actually put springs right here. Trying to I loosened this one up. I literally removed the spring. This spacer used to be a spring. I made it loose because on the recent race we had at the dojo, it was literally about I think a 2.5 foot jump. We call it the Viagra Falls. So one way to also adjust your damping, besides from the spring, is the angle, or call it the slack angle. If you want to drop and slam on the damper right away, you would want this angle to be around 25 degrees, no more than 30. Rule of thumb. Now, if you want really, really big dampering and then a straight, then you could go higher. You could go like about 30 to 35 degrees. That's good enough. But if you're jumping and then it's a sudden turn, you don't want this angle to be too big, because what will happen is if you jump and this is still up, let's say the angle here, and you go to a turn, the tendency of your car is to roll off because your weight is higher than the axle, center axle, right? You would want this to slap back. Call this slap back. I don't know what the term would be. I just use the term slap back. Okay. So I know it's hard to distinguish what angle you should be using. So what I normally do during practice runs, I adjust this one. I start with about 30 degrees. And if it slaps right enough, I leave it there. But if I'm putting more speed on the motor and this doesn't slap back, I bring it back a little bit. But keep in mind, the reason I'm doing that is because I want this arm to be down the moment it turns or hits another feature. This element which I'm pointing out is because you want to be able to keep your car flat to the ground after a jump before hitting a turn. Okay, that's the purpose. But if you're jumping and it's a straight, you could leave this one like as tilted as possible, or like probably like 30 degrees or 35 degrees. Okay. Now on the back, normally for typical setup, the back is normally pretty good. Even if you use the car catcher type, even if you put this one further up, like how people do in the MA and the MS, they actually put the arm all the way to the back right here. Let me just get my MS. Okay. So some people, instead of mounting it from here, they actually put the arm all the way to the back right here. So you have a longer arm, and actually just drops it like crazy. Okay. But in this case, I'm okay with having it mounted right here instead of over there, because normally I don't have any bounce in the back for most of the cars. But if you have a heavier setup and you need more damping on the MS, what you could do is, as I pointed out, put this arm all the way right there, and you have a bigger slap. Okay. Now, okay, so I'm just randomly telling you stuff. Okay, so I didn't really plan out what the topics to say. I'm just thinking out loud. So difference between the front and the back, and why you should use either. One, normally the front is lighter. This is the S2 front, S2 back. Try damper. Okay. I normally use this one before, and then I started to evolve and use this one because recently the tracks we've been getting in the local events required a jump and a sudden turn, or double dragons or mini jumps where this has to pop, go like this, has to slap back right away. When you have a rear body damper system, this is very slow to hit. One thing's for sure though, if you're doing long jumps and you have straights, the rear body damper system is still the best, because this one just lands, just pounds, just slaps back. More stable than that one. But for straights, if you have long jumps and then even tall jumps and then land, the rear damper system, for me, in my experience, is better. But if you have like complicated tracks where you have like multiple jumps, you'd really want to consider doing the front damper system. Okay. As I pointed out earlier, the angle is important for how much slack you want to get. You could also adjust the spring. You could use the silver high tension. You could bring it down to have more slack. The thing is, the looser your body damper system, for me, in my experience, the better dampering you have, because as you jump, you really want have that motion, like gravity would. If you drop, this one delays and then it goes like this. Okay. If this is too tight or too much tension, it'd be like just like this, going with the car. You really want this to go delay and then slap. That's the purpose of having this one really loose. Having this one really loose, because you want, when you jump, you want this one to go up and then like this. If this is too tight, then it will just go up and then just go with the car. There's no delay on this. And that's the reason why, by design, this is meant to have some delay. There's one delay, there's two delay. That's why some people actually make this one a little bit longer, because they want delay, delay, slap, and then second slap. So it basically, that's the purpose of the dampering motion. Okay. So if your car tends to double hop after landing, think about adjusting the angle, this height, more than replacing your, or reducing or adding more weights on your body damper. For me, having two, the bullet and the cylinder, for me that's enough. I mean, adding two more than this is, I think it's not really practical. You could remove, but I would suggest not add anything. Okay. What else? Oh, okay. My suggestion, by the way. Okay, so everyone's crazy about motors, right? So everyone's thinking about what motor to use, or what kind of motor or what gear you want to use in a race. Here's my suggestion. You just bear with me. I'm trying to get my motor case. So I'll show you what I have. So this is what my this is what my motor case looks like. Okay. And bear with me, okay? Don't laugh. I actually use only one stock car, this car, and I use a speed checker. All I do is, even though it's single pin or double pin like this one, I normally just use this as my guinea pig. So what I normally do, because you could also put a single shaft over here, right? For every motor I have, I just put in this car and then run it. And whatever I get from that, I just write down what the speed is. For example, this is Hyperdash. Okay, don't try to look for the fastest motor. Just write down what your speed is. So I have a Hyperdash. This 37. This 36. Okay. So what I normally do, I keep all of my good motors and bad motors in my set. So if I need to go fast, I just choose my fast motor. If I need torque but don't want to use light dash, like I'm not lucky enough to find a good light dash, I just use my worst Hyperdash, like the slowest one. I think the slowest one I had was a 33, which actually won during the last dojo race. I put right here because yeah, there's the one. Yeah, my worst Hyperdash motor, and it actually did well at the last dojo race. People were using light dash. I used a Hyperdash, And then to step it down a little bit, and I want to point out is I used batteries at 1.28 volts. So I didn't go all the way to 1.48 or 1.5, which is, you could go with the Fujitsu's. This one on the Eneloops, you could go in my set. I could go all the way to 140. Was it 148? I think 147. But for the last race, because I didn't want to overshoot, my worst Hyperdash 3 motor, and I used 1.28 volts. And that's how I regulate the speed of the car. I normally try to use a powerful motor like Hyperdash and above, or a Mac Dash if I have to, or if your venues would allow it, and then it's back off on the voltage. That's how I do it every single time, every single race. I just back off. I just regulate my speed using volts. And normally for Hyperdash, it's very reliable, even though you're partially drained or your battery's not fully charged. Even with a 5-lane track, this thing will last, especially for Hyperdash. There's no drop. Now, be careful though. If you use the Fujitsu's, they drain up really fast. But I normally use this one for 3-lane races because I really want to be fast on the first lap and then gradually slow down on the latter laps, especially if it's a 3-lap race. And with the Hyperdash, fast at the first lap, it's not that bad, right? But normally when I race, I use the white ones because this is pretty much how my car. This batteries work really well in trying to maintain the pitch to be straight for me. The way I design my car and where the weight would be works really well with the white ones. But if I want to tilt a little bit, I use this. Now, if I want to really pound down, I use the black one, which I rarely use nowadays because it's way too heavy. Okay. What else? Oh, okay. Also, another tip: if there's a lot of cornering, my tip: do not clean your tires. If there's a lot of cornering in the track layout, do not clean your tires. That's one thing my friends who went to the Japan Cup about 2 years ago, one of the biggest tips Enomoto told them for the 2016 track, because he had a lot of corners. He said, do not clean your tires. Why? Because you want it to slide in the corners. Remember, you don't have any differential, right? So if your tires are too grippy, it slows down during the corners. Okay, tracks without corners. To talk about speed tech tracks. Okay, but if your track has a lot of straights, more straights than cornering, yeah, you could use the fat and grippy tires. Go do that. But if there's a lot of cornering, and as I mentioned a while ago, I'm assuming that you already know the advantages of offset tires and whatnot. But if you want more cornering speeds, you really want this one to be slippery. Use super hard, or better yet, also use the maroon low friction tires, front or back, like this one. This guy right here is maroon. The contact surface for this is actually actually on the maroon. If you see that outside corner right here, where it's touching, it's actually touching only in the maroon, front and back. Front and back. Just touching the maroon frictionless. Really good in corner. Really good. Now, if you want more acceleration, totally fan of the S2. Really light and very easy to adjust and easy to set up. Big fan of the S2. Super fan. Even though that, you know, the MA has been doing great lately, especially for 2017. But I'm always gonna be a fan of the S2. It's easy to build and easy to adjust. I mean, even the parts here, the mods is easily adjustable. Okay, Okay, so I'll just leave it like that. If you have questions, just post it in this comment. Actually, I know I missed out in other stuff that I want to share, but for now, I'll leave it like that. Hopefully, you got something from this. And those I mentioned, these are for those who are trying to jump from the beginner level to the intermediate level, and maybe those who already know how to modify. You pick up a thing or two in what I've been doing during the races. Again, this is Rex. Thank you for your time.